So here we have Pippin in our spare doona cage, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how we realised there were health problems and what we're doing about the health problems. Now with Pippin, he's not very happy because we're trying to collect a urine sample. So in the doona cage, which is nice and protected at the sides so he won't get a draft, Pippin is in there on his own with just a bowl of water. He has had some food to eat before he came out, and a good time to collect your rats for a water sample is immediately after they wake up. If you hear them eating their food or going for a drink, then get them out, put them into a spare cage or carrier, and they can't have any food or anything in there because it's going to, they might get into the water sample. Obviously, if you can't get a water sample relatively quickly, then you will have to give them some food and just clean up any crumbs or anything after they've eaten so it doesn't contaminate the water sample. But anyway, Pippin has had a long-term problem of putting on weight, and what we've been doing is, you might have seen our video where we weighed Jack. Instead of weighing Pippin every month, which we do just to keep a check on the older rat's weight, we've been weighing him every week and monitoring his weight. So I'll show you what I've done here. And I've actually got Wash's list here. I've just summarised this from my little rat notebook. So on the 24th of November, you can see this is our starting weight: 702 grams for Wash, 854 grams for Pippin. A month later, we noticed Wash had started to lose weight. He'd lost 27 grams and Pippin was going up. He'd gained 36 grams, that's quite a lot of weight. So we started to monitor the weight every week, and we noticed that poor little Wash, he'd lost in about, I think that was just over a week, in about 10 days he'd lost 22 grams, which is an enormous amount of weight to lose. Pippin had gone up 14 grams. And we've adjusted Pippin's diet and we're giving him extra exercise anyway, and thankfully his weight now seems to have stabilised, as you can see from the arrows here. So up arrow means he's gone up, down means he's gone down, and a crossways horizontal arrow means he's stabilised. So that's been the same for 2 weeks. So with his new lower calorie diet, hopefully that is stabilising him, but now we have to shift the weight down, otherwise he's going to end up needing insulin as well. Now poor Wash, he is steadily going down, 11 grams, 10 grams a week, and I have just weighed him again and it is again 10 grams that he's lost. So that is a real worry. Now the other thing to look for when your rats are suddenly losing weight is, are they drinking a lot more? And it's very hard to tell how much your rat is actually drinking for each individual rat when they're in a group of rats. So there is a calculation you can do, which is roughly 10 mils per 100 grams of body weight for the adult rat. So that would mean the adult rat was drinking about roughly 50 to 70 mils a day. Now that isn't very good, isn't really a terribly good way to do it, because it's only very approximate. So what we tend to do is we will look at the actual water bottle and see if you know that your group of rats normally drinks 100 mils between them a day, and they suddenly are drinking 150 mils between them, then there's a problem. So you want to look out and notice which rat is drinking more and keep an eye on that particular rat. Now if they become very unwell and they stop eating and they look very shrunken in at the sides, they're possibly dehydrated. You need to get them to a vet very quickly. Keep monitoring the weight of the rat and the amount of water, and if it suddenly shoots up very quickly, then you need to get to the vet very quickly, because these sort of problems are usually kidney problems or diabetes. Now the next thing you do is we've started to test the urine. Before we actually went to the vet, we always have the urine sticks. These are the Mission ones. I think you get about 100 for about £8 from Amazon. Now these are the 8 parameter It's got everything we need on here. They are human ones. It's testing us white blood cells, nitrates, proteins, pH, blood, density, you know, how strong the urine is. Ketones are very important, and glucose. So the things that I'm basically looking for is if there's white blood cells, that's not good. That could be an infection. Protein, which can be kidney problems. Blood, obviously, that blood is never a good time. And ketones, if that goes up, that means you've got quite a bad problem with your diabetic rat. And obviously glucose. Now, poor little Pippin, he had protein and he had blood, and we were very worried about that. So he's another thing with him of how you can sort of know there's a problem is a lot of excess urine, and if it's very smelly, it's likely to be a nasty infection, which was the case with little Pip. I still call him little Pip because he was the littlest of the group. He's now the largest of the group, but it seems a bit mean to call him anything other than little Pip. So little Pip is on antibiotics for a urine infection, and we're keeping a check on his urine. So this is the individual stick, and there's two things to remember really. If you are collecting a sample for your vet, you will need to get a syringe, so one of these little syringes, and you'll need a collection bottle. Now your vet will actually, if you see your vet regularly, good idea to get a hold of a couple of bottles and a couple of syringes. Keep the syringes separate to the ones you use for your antibiotics, obviously. Rinse them out well after use, because you want them to be dry and clean for collecting the samples. And if you're collecting the sample for the vet, just put it into the bottle. If you're doing it for yourself, you can also collect the sample from the cage floor and put it into the bottle. And now this, especially in the cage, you must have no bedding at all. Make sure it's clean and dry, no bedding. And just keep a watch on your rat. Now with Wash, he will do a lovely puddle, and we can just suck the urine up with the syringe, and we can put it in here, dip the stick in. You have to time it for 1 minute exactly, so you'll need a phone with a timer or a clock with you, and then you compare the result after exactly 1 minute to the results on here and see how much sugar, etc., is in the urine. If you have a rat that does horrible little dribbles, like Pippin, not the fact he does horrible little dribbles, but his tummy's quite big, so it spreads the urine across the cage, so there's not a really good sample. It's very time consuming, and you will have to just collect it 1 drop at a time and put into here. If you're just doing the sample for yourself, you don't have to collect it in a pot. You can, if there's a big puddle, just dip the stick into the puddle quickly. Make sure all the little squares are covered. But say with Pippin, we can't ever do that because his tummy and his tail, he sweeps the urine, mops it up, sweeps it across, and we're resulting in tiny little drops, and we have to painstakingly collect every little drop with a syringe and put it into here. So the other thing I do, come on Pippy, hurry up and do a wee. I don't think I'm actually going to be able to show you with Pippin, but I will try again with Wash. And we have a bowl of lukewarm water ready, because the rat will get the urine all over their body and their tail, so we will just dip the rat into the water afterwards, and then have a towel ready, wrap them up and dry them, pop them back into their cage, give them a little cuddle first. And that's how we will collect a urine sample. But I don't think we're actually going to get Pippin to do one today. He's a little bit miffed that he's in here. It is very difficult, you know, to collect a urine sample, and it's patience. If you are going to have to leave the rat in for some time, then obviously I would give them a piece of food, offer some food, but I would make sure I clean all the crumbs up, as I said before. And I think with Pippin we've timed it wrong. A really good time is straight after they wake up, because they will usually go for a wee very soon after waking up, especially if you've noticed they've just had a drink. Get them into here as soon as possible into your spare cage. You can use the carriers if you have a carrier, but I think that this doona cage that we bought for our emergency evacuation cage and for taking groups of rats to the vets, this is a really good one. He's found a little water hole. Hey Pippi, your little nose. Yeah, don't stick your nose out of there. Hey Pippi. Oh, poor Pippin. I do feel cruel doing this. It has been quite traumatic. Yeah, that's really not going to be a fun thing to have to keep testing urine for the rats. It's not as bad as testing their blood, which is even more traumatic. But I'm going to do another video with Wash in a minute and hope that he will be more accommodating and do a little urine sample for us, and we can talk more about how we're actually going to treat Wash for his diabetes. So just watch out, monitor your rat's weight. If you notice weight loss, any sort of excessive drinking, very wet bedding, you have to look at the two possibilities, which is kidney urine problems and also diabetes.